is Fred Bergeron. And Fred also has control of the screen. And your timing is already coordinated with our Kiwi specialist, right? With William. So Fred, if you haven't told him, William's going to cut you off at 4 minutes.
5 to 7.
We got to have fun when we have joy with timing there. So we're recording at that. A little introduction for Fred. If you listen to Fred's speech that's been in 6 months in his making, it's entitled, So You Know the F Word? No, rephrase that. So you think you know the F word? Fred is working from Pathways Level 3, Engaging Humor. It's a project to connect with storytelling. His 5 to 7 minutes presentation, he asked that his speech be recorded, which we are. And for all audience members to please open up your camera and your microphones. Let it be unmuted so that he can see and hear if there's laughs he hopes to accomplish from his speech. This is valuable impact for it. Please welcome to the virtual lectern, distinguished Toastmaster, Mr. Fred Bergeron.
Thank you, Mr. Man in the Hat. How many people here have heard words coming out of people's mouths where it made you wonder, what in the heck did they just say? Well, I remember living in Georgia. I was walking into a bathroom and this guy was coming out and he said, boy, that thing's burnt. As I'm opening the door to an overflowing toilet, I realized this gentleman meant the commode was ruined. As a former vet and a military brat, I used to travel around the world quite a bit. And my name was pronounced several different ways. For example, if I was on the West Coast, I would be called Bergeron. When I was in Europe, I would be called Bergeron. And when I was in a different time zone, I would often be called late for dinner. But that's just the tip of the iceberg of some rather mispronounced words. Because tonight I'm here to tell you about some 4-letter F words that my Southern friends used to use and abuse when they addressed me when I used to live in Georgia. And one of those 4-letter F words was Fred. Now get your mind out of the gutter, people. What did you think I was going to say? So when I was actually living in Georgia, I was actually known as Fred. That's right, 2 syllables with a Y in the middle, as in, why the heck can't you ever get my name right? Well, this bothered me so much to the point that I actually had a license plate made to let people know how my first name got botched. And this is what it looked like. If I can do it for a minute. And that's how it was spelled. And some people would often confuse it for afraid not. So also, being named after my dad also was a challenge in and of itself, especially living just a few miles away from it. And I remember visiting him one day, and my dad told me that he was often called Frank. So I asked my dad, well, how did you overcome people misusing your name? He said, well, let me be frank with you, and I would tell them that I prefer the nice 4-letter F word. Well, being my dad's son, I decided to one-up him. And I said, well, I prefer the other 4-letter F word better. Excuse me. And I said, the reason why is because I may not be so nice if people keep getting my name wrong. So I remembered telling people to try to say my name right. Now, on top of that, being half Filipino living in Georgia also didn't help either, because people had no idea what a Filipino was. They all assumed I was Chinese, and they call me a chink, which wouldn't have been so bad if I actually was. So I actually had to set these people straight and give them another 4-letter F word to remember Filipino. And that was the word flip. So I figured that would be a good way for them to remember Filipino. And I remember a saying by Bill Cosby saying, first you say it, then you do it. Because after all, if you're going to call me names, you may as well make it the right one. So apparently the Southerners got the hint, because I remembered my dad and I went to the local swimming pool one day to take some swimming lessons. Well, my dad jumps in the pool. He jumps in, and before I jumped in the pool, I noticed this rather unusual sign on the wall that caused me to be a little hesitant about jumping in. Well, my dad kept encouraging me to jump in, and I kept backing away. Then he threatened for me to pick a switch if I didn't jump in the swimming pool. So as I'm explaining to my dad, I said, Dad, I can't swim here. I can't. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, get your butt in this swimming pool. I said, well, Dad, I said, I realized that people in the South were, ignorant and prejudiced, but I really didn't think they'd advertise it. He said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, Dad, look at the sign. It says, no flips in the pool.
Oh.
Myself, okay, with a name like Bergeron, that's easy to screw up. I've had a couple of teachers screw them up, a couple of bosses. I've even had a couple of trophies misspelled with my last name. But how do you screw up Fred? Well, as a French Filipino from Florida named Fred, I'm here to sing y'all that perfect country western song. And it goes something like this. I was drunk the day my mama got out of prison. Oh, wrong verse. Next verse, not like the first. You don't have to call me Frederick Bergeron. And you don't have to call me Fred anymore. And you don't have to call me Chink because it's lame. Well, I wonder why you don't call me. Why don't you ever call me by my name? Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster, or Mr. MC.
That is just on so many levels. Fred Bergeron. When we first started this club, Fred and I got together and visiting, and he told me the concept of, Fred Bergeron. Man, you'd be amazed how many people have a tough time spelling my name. F-R-E-D. Yeah, that was fun. So love that concept. Before we go much further, I'd like to hear from Paula Suma. Paula is sneaking in a good word for us to utilize anytime during our presentation, anytime in life. So Paula, give us a little bit of words that we can use.
Thank you. Thank you. The word of the day is gubbins, G-U-B-B-I-N-S, gubbins. It's a noun and it has several meanings. One, a silly person, as in Fred Bergeron, hopefully correctly spoken, is a gubbins, a very silly person. Also, another meaning can be fragments or scraps, assorted stuff, typically of little value. And Fred is not that kind of gubbins. He is the number one meaning as a silly person. But you can use either meaning if you use the word of the day when you speak, and I will make note of it if called on later. We're going to listen for everyone to say that wonderful word of the day, gubbins. Thank you.
Gubbins. Yeah. I'm a little brother. My older brothers and sisters always had a name like that for me. Let's get a little feedback for Fred. The way we do that here is we use May Tran as our facilitator. She's going to call on 3, 4, maybe 5 people and be concise, 20 to 30 seconds each. We're going to go for 3 minutes total. So let's have timer at 3 minutes, put up the red card, and May, wherever we're at, bring it to conclusion. So pick any 3 or 4 people and ask them to give a little bit of feedback to Mr. Fred Bergeron.
Thank you so much, Mr. MC. I'm going to be the funny govern myself first before I call people. Can I be funny, Mr. Fred Bergeron? I'm just teasing. It sounds like this in French. So, just for fun, Fred. Don't mind me. I'm going to call Linda, Stephanie, Francine, Gloria, and Charlotte. 5. Is that okay?
As long as we're concise, let's go for it. And prompt them so they can go on. Linda's first.
Yeah.
I really like the ending with a song that really kept us there and wanting to hear what the stanzas were going to be. And it was very creative and funny.
Thank you.
Fred, waking us up, going for shock value. It's one of your hallmarks, isn't it? But Fred, along with being a Gubbins, what in the world is on your chair making you hop around like that?
He's flipping off of it is what it is.
You're flipping? Okay. I was wondering how far into that screen you could lean, but that's okay. I still enjoyed your speech. Next.
Am I next? I'll go. I heard my name at one time, but I don't know the order where it should have been.
Yes, Francine.
This is Gloria. Oh, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Gloria.
All right. Thank you, Francine. Fred, it was funny. I laughed in a few places. I smiled because I didn't chuckle out loud in a couple of places. However, today, one of our lessons from Robert Carvalho was of Carvalho. There you go. Names getting mixed up. Was to be careful about saying something that may be off-putting. There were 2 things in that short presentation that was off-putting to me, referring to Chinese by some other phrase, a word that took me aback. And also the implication that Southerners are not too bright, having been raised for more than 60 years in the South, albeit Florida. Thank you, Fred.
Okay, is it my turn now?
Yes.
Yes, sorry, Francine.
No, that's okay, it's my fault. Fred, I was really distracted by all of this. That's already been talked about. And I was a little off put by those words too. However, you could have softened them up a little bit by making a joke out of it rather than just spitting the offensive words out. That's my opinion.
Okay, I think it's my turn now. Fred, I thought that was a good speech. I got to know you a little bit better with that information. I thought it was really funny. And the only comment I have was that I think you need a new chair. Get one that doesn't slide around so much, because that was a bit distracting. Other than that, it was a pretty good speech. Thank you very much, Fred.
Marvelous. Thank you, May, for facilitating that. And we're going to do it again after our next presentation, which is coming up next. I'm going to stop the recording and begin it again.
You don't mind if I give a quick tip?
We're going to have to hold off on that more so that we stay
Sure, no
on
problem.
time, but you can drop that little chat directly into that person. We're
For sure,
still
will do.
right on time.